Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? We're back. We're back to doing videos about comics that don't feature Dracula. More's the pity. Felt like we did quite a few of those. But no, we're getting back to WILDCATS, and WILDCATS by James Robinson and Travis Charest. So just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, go subscribe on my Patreon. Links are in the description, gives you early access to everything I do. Helps out the channel, helps to buy new comics. So last we saw the WILDCATS, it wasn't really about the WILDCATS anymore. This is right in the wake of the three-part story by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. And yes, I said that correctly. It was originally billed as a three-part story, and then we got an extra part anyway, even though we really didn't want it. And with that, Jim Lee was done with doing monthly comics. That's it. I've had enough. And Travis Charest took over as the starting penciler for WILDCATS and brought in a new writer as well because, I mean, we never needed Brandon Choi anyway, but, you know, if Jim's not writing, all of a sudden this becomes Brandon Choi's book. Like the attention goes on him and his writing comes under scrutiny, and nobody needs that. So instead, bring in an established guy in James Robinson. James Robinson has his own ideas about where he wants the comic to go, and apparently he wants to make this a Tom Clancy-esque special teams book featuring the Black Razors. Black Razors are, of course, the Spec Ops branch of I.O., International Operations, who are kind of a CIA-esque shady organization that first started up, I think, in WILDCATS #1. And yeah, they're going to be the focus for, I mean, they were last issue and they are this issue again. What happened in the last issue was M got invited to join some sort of council that was going to advise on world events, along with all sorts of other high-ranking delegates and emirates and, you know, billionaires, essentially, CEOs. They all got together, formed a big club, and like, we're going to run shit now. And that's going to work out fine, I'm sure. But there's a problem in that all of these world leader types are starting to get bumped off by some unknown assailant. And I.O. has figured out that the assailants are Damonite in origin, and they're coming for Jacob Marlowe next. So yeah, last issue was mostly focused on the Black Razors team that was trying to stop an assassination of some kind. I can't remember if they did or not. Let's assume they did, because they're the protagonists now, so we might as well give them the benefit of the doubt. And they're going to try and stop the attempt on Emp's life, even though their leader really doesn't want to. And we'll find out why in this issue. So yeah, this is the second issue of the Travis Charest era. And the last issue was interesting because it was kind of a tweener issue in between the WILDCATS Special Edition and, you know, Travis Charest Superstar that we'd see in WILDCATS Volume 2, #1. He'd made a bunch of progress, but he still had a lot of kinks to work out. There was a fair bit of awkwardness in a lot of the poses. There was some stiffness. There were some kind of humdrum page designs. There was a lot of attempts at double page spreads, but then they were done kind of, I don't know, statically, like very static panel layouts. And this one's going to be interesting because somewhere in between WILDCATS #15 and WILDCATS #16, Travis Charest leveled up his game. This one is a fair bit better than the last issue. And this issue was released a month after the last one. I don't think that Travis Charest got this issue done in a month. I think probably he was working on this for quite some time before Jim Lee absconded. And maybe issue #15 was a bit of a rushed first attempt. This one, he probably got a bit more time to sit on. That's my guess anyway. So let's start on this. We can start with the cover. That is a much better cover than the last time. The last cover wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. That's it there. That's a pretty good shot. This is a movie poster. Now, I'm not always a fan of the movie poster cover, but it wasn't very common in 1994. Like, we had basically gotten used to the old school type of covers, which were usually just a big splashy image that could have been taken just out of context from any point in the comic itself. Either that or the more recent image variation where it's just a pinup. You know, dude had some free time and thought he'd draw a cool shot of his team or his character or whatever. You know, you get a lot of that on Spawn or Youngblood. Really, WILDCATS, like any of them. This is a sum-up cover that's done in a very nice composition. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not very good at composition myself. I understand a couple of things. Obviously, the big image here is the leader of the Black Razors. This is Santini. And then we got kind of the support image down here with the WILDCATS. And they're going to war with the Damonite. And we get some background stuff here that also kind of works into the story. But incredible looking cover. Like the head looks great. Travis Charest is doing some weird stuff with the shadows. He seems to be figuring something out. This isn't something he'd hold on to very long, or at least not exactly like this. So he seems to be he's either playing around or this is something the inker's coming up with. I'm not for sure. Great poses on the Wildcats down here, like really good poses. And that's the thing that Travis Charest would excel at pretty soon. And one thing I am seeing is how all the lines are kind of coming in on Spartan here as well, from the line of the gun to the shots from the ship here to the Daemonite's arm. Yeah, a lot of like lines directing your gaze. Okay, so we're going to start things off with a training sequence, which I'm never a fan of, although it does give us a chance to see our new protagonists, because that's what they are. These are the Black Razors, and they're going to work out against some simulated image superheroes. So first off here, they're going up against Union, and the one guy here, I don't know any of their names. I know the one guy's Santini, and that's as far as I'm willing to learn. But yeah, this guy here knocks him out with one punch. That's kind of how this training thing's going to go. And we flip the page, and they're beating up on a few more. They're throwing spawn all around the place. One of them does a big old jump, shoots him in the back, and that's the end of our training sequence. And in the middle of the training sequence, they're just kind of going to chatter with each other about the state of the Black Razors team, where the one guy here who punched Union, he's not happy about Santini being named the team leader, or I guess he's not even team leader. He's more like IO leader. Old team leader was John Lynch, who was basically stand-in Nick Fury, and they saw him as more of a leader, while Santini, well, he used to be a Black Razors operative until he got his knee shot out, and ever since then, he's kind of unfit for action, and they don't think he's got enough experience that he's a good enough leader to actually be successful or lead them to success. So naturally, the guy thinks he should have gotten that job in his place, but he didn't get it, so the other guys tell him to quit his bitching, and they get on finishing up their training stuff. But yeah, there's some interestingly good shots in this. Oh, Fuji's in there too. Missed that at first. The action here flows pretty nice. And that's actually not going to maintain over the issue. There's a bit of a flow problem later on. Like I said, he's not 100% at Travis Charest superstar status yet. He's still got a few seams showing. He's still got to pick up a couple of things. So it's interesting when we can pick those things out. But like, decent action sequence. Some great poses in some of this here. Like particularly the woman here. What's her name? I feel like I should know her name. But the names here are Fleming, Grady, and Cisco. And neither of those sound familiar. I'm going to guess that's Cisco. And just because I'm guessing they're introduced up here in the order they were speaking when we first opened the comic, that's probably Fleming, that's probably Grady. So Grady's poses are fucking great. From this leap here to the upside down shooting leap here. I feel like I've seen this somewhere. I'm not sure where. You know what it actually reminds me of a little bit is Hitman, with Tommy flopping around and shooting stuff upside down and stuff. But yeah, we get to see Travis Charest's take on Spawn and Union and all that. That's a pretty great looking Spawn. Awesome looking shadows. And then we end with our cool shot of the three of them standing around in their tech. Well, it's kind of a cool. It's honestly not that great compared to the stuff that Travis Charest is gonna do in this book. This is almost like a bit of a throwaway page. All right, so now we're gonna cut to a church, and Santini, leader of the Black Razors, is gonna do a "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I killed some people, and now I'm gonna go kill some more people. So I need you to absolve me of the people I'm going to kill." And Santini says to the Father, "I can't tell you everything. I can't tell you every detail of what we're going to do or what we have done, and because if I did, I'd have to kill you. Ha ha." And then he proceeds to tell him every detail of the unit that he commands and what their plans are, which is dumb, but there is very little exposition in this comic once it gets rolling. In fact, there's very little dialogue towards the end of this thing too. It just kind of zips through. But anyway, the plan is, because they know there's a shapeshifter that's worked its way into Wildcats, and it's following Marlowe around until they get to this council meeting when it's going to strike, it's going to take out, I think, some other big tycoon kind of guy. Maybe it's not focusing on Marlowe at this time, like it's not this particular agent's target. I can't remember exactly. That was all explained in the last issue. I do not feel like going and rereading that. So what they've done now is they've mapped out the fighting styles of the Wildcats from whatever footage they've been able to glean, which I suppose must have been a fair bit. And the idea is that, they're basically going to jump the Wildcats and get them into a fight. And they're going to monitor the attack patterns of the Wildcats, and whoever doesn't match up with their previous pattern of attacks is probably the shapeshifter. Which is an interesting way, at least, to tell who our villain is going to be, our hidden villain. He goes over how his team doesn't trust him, about how They don't think he's fit to be in the field, and they don't think he's a good enough leader to be a guy on the sidelines. And they go over how exactly he got sidelined way back in Wildcats number 2, which was like 2 years ago, when Black Razors showed up to fight the Wildcats for no really good reason, other than that fake Nick Fury wanted to talk to Emp, and Jacob Marlowe shot out Santini's knee, which was a little bit surprising. It's like, oh shit, I remember that moment. Are we actually coming back to something that happened previously? That's crazy. So Santini now hates Jacob Marlowe because, he destroyed his knee, and he's a field guy. Basically took away his purpose. And of course, he's got his own mission, and part of his orders are to protect the delegates, including Jacob Marlowe. So he's got a little bit of cross purposes going on here. Decent, it's all fairly just competent stuff, really, including a couple of photocopies. I think just the 2. That's all right. But pretty good looking heads. Travis Charest is definitely developing his own style for how to draw heads. This doesn't look like Travis Charest at all. Who inked this thing? This is by Troy Hubbs. I'm not familiar with the name, but this looks like early Richard Bennett. You know what? Thinking about how Jim Lee does the house style kind of comics, this could be Richard Bennett. I don't know. But another good face. Looks like straight out of Apocalypse Now. We're not getting too cramped with the panel layouts. We're getting kind of close. And there's a fair amount of, of talking going on. This is a little bit of a boring sequence, but it's still early in the comic. As you're reading it, you probably haven't run out of steam just yet. So then the alarm rings. It's mission time, and I suppose these are all our guys. I think we met like 5 guys last time, so I don't know who pretty much any of these are. Oh, except I think that's probably Cisco. But that's it. I don't know the rest of these guys. Oh, shit, that's probably Grady. Fuck. All right, so then Santini's going to debrief the team about just the quick rundown, the quick recap, what they're planning to do here. He's going to act as their radio contact because his superiors have decided he can't be in the field. Last issue, he did go out in the field and just about got himself killed, although he did also kind of save the day. Goes over again the thing how they're going to try and detect the assassin imposter by comparing his normal pattern of movement and fighting technique. And once he outs himself, then they're going to be on top of him. And once they're aware of who the assassin is, he wants a headshot, he wants it quick and clean, and he wants it done with. Again, this is kind of feeling like Tom Clancy. But this splash page is fucking wild. I don't think we've seen anything like this from Travis Charest at this point. Just fantastic composition, with Santini here being in the foreground. He's huge, he looms over everything. So he's obviously going to be a focus, but then also all of the lines here direct your line of sight to the group. And hey, just a cool shot of a sci-fi ship to top things off with. But it all works together really well. It doesn't feel cluttered. It doesn't feel like anything is kind of just shoved in there because it needed to take up space. The big group shot here looks pretty natural. Like, this is a pretty incredible page. A lot of black in the figure here too. Like a lot of shadow in the suit. All right, and he's going to finish up his rundown by saying he's not joining them this time because he's been ordered not to. His superiors want him to be more like John Lynch, where he would stay in the command center and send Black Razors out and just kind of stay on the earpiece and direct them that way. But we get the impression Santini thinks he's a better leader than John Lynch, or at least a better leader for the Black Razors, in that he used to be a Black Razor, whereas John Lynch was straight, like, CIA operative kind of guy. Didn't think twice about wasting Black Razor lives. Another pretty nice page that doesn't feel particularly cluttered. Everything flows fairly nicely, and I like the kind of unifying thing he's got going on here with it, just these random shapes, kind of linking these panels here to this one up here. That's kind of nice. But you still, you know where to read because you go like, this one, and then down here. That all makes sense. Some of these drawings still don't look like Travis Charest. Again, could be that he's still morphing. Could be the inker. Could be some shadow penciling. If it is shadow penciling, this guy needs to get a bit more work, I think. All right, so from there we're going to cut to the meeting, which is somewhere in the Middle East. I'm not exactly sure where. They don't tell us. And Jacob Marlowe is having a discussion with the Emir, and they're talking business. So as we get kind of background shots of the other Wildcats just standing around, not knowing what to do because they're just on protection detail. And we get like little snippets of their conversation, like ratio of trade, cost of barrels, patterns in sales, pre-existing loans. So you're not supposed to know what they're talking about. Doesn't matter. Just business. Get a weird bit here where they try to turn Voodoo. No, don't you do that. Where they try to turn Void into like a character, where she's like, since when do you care about business, Cole? And then she sniffs him and goes, new aftershave? And I'm wondering if that's supposed to be the first hint that Grifter is supposed to be the assassin. Because that is kind of where they're gonna hint in this thing. But, you know, fun little headshots, cool shots of the Black Razors airdropping down on top of them. Like, that's some good stuff. Swooping down onto the palace. That fucking palace looks pretty damn good. And you'll notice that the dialogue is starting to taper off. Like, they intended for there to be some kind of narration or something, and then just kind of didn't get around to it. But yeah, these are very nice looking pages. Like, very, very slick. No real awkwardness, as far as I can tell. Again, this is what I was talking about, though, with these static panel layouts, where it's very much just, you know, okay, this is the line, and then everything works off that line, then we go like that, then we go like that. There's no real creativity into the page design just yet, which is not really a very harsh critique of Travis Charest, because, like, he would fucking get there. It's just, it takes a little while. So, Black Razors crash the party, they go smashing in through the window, and the Wildcats have to react. They don't know why the Black Razors are there, they just know that the Black Razors are always hounding them. But the point is to basically stir up a hornet's nest. Get them all moving around, get them all fighting, and see if they can monitor what their fighting techniques are and if they match up. And you better get used to some double page spreads, because we're going to get a few. And this is an indication of how it's going to go, which is pretty good. This is a pretty great splash. Great poses. Like, I love the Zealot pose here. I love the Spartan pose too, actually, for a dude flying into action. That's a great one. Bit of a tangent here with his leg kind of matching up with Zealot's arm, but you can see enough of the boot that, you know, maybe your eye doesn't get fooled too much. The only thing that feels like it doesn't belong here is Grifter, who's standing stock still and just says with no exclamation point whatsoever, cool, I was getting bored. Now, that could be a thing where they were trying to set him apart from the others and make him seem like he's just not part of the group. So if that's the case, then that might not be the worst job, actually. But otherwise, yeah, it's a bit static for the rest of this very fluid group shot. And then the action gets a little weak. Or not weak, maybe. Unfocused. Like, this feels hyper-focused. It feels very well realized. It feels like this was set up properly, even like the outline around Zealot here, making sure she stands out against them all. That's well done. And then this, it feels like the camera got kind of jostled, and it's not quite focusing on whatever it should be focusing on. It's more just like Travis Charest trying to capture chaos, so he tries to get both Warblade and Spartan in the same shot, but without doing it in a way where your eye is directed to one or the other. Same with this shot here of Zealot taking a swing at one of the Black Razor guys. It just seems like a bit of a candid shot and doesn't seem set up, which is odd for Travis Charest. And it doesn't feel like it's following any kind of left to right, so it almost feels like the action's going this way, this way, this way. I don't know if that's intentional, but it doesn't feel right. It just feels more amateurish in this case, I think. Meanwhile, on the IO craft, they're monitoring the battle, just trying to see if there's any kind of aberrations that they can hone in on so that they can get this fucking fight over with before someone gets killed. When another craft shows up, and this is a Daemonite craft, so we're going to have a bit of a dogfight between the IO ship and the Daemonite ship. That's a nice shot here when they realize that they're under attack. Nice Dutch angle. Now we cut back to the action below with Emp and one of the Emir's bodyguards trying to fend off the attackers. And one of the Emir's bodyguards trying to fend off the attackers. That's a good shot as well. Like how the gunshots aren't going in the same direction. I think that's good. Interesting choice to go with no background. I feel like that's always like an option on an outside corner. You know, up here, down here, over here, down here. You don't really want it in the inside next to the binding so much if you can help it. But outside corner, yeah, by all means, get lazy. Leave the background out. It works very well. I think that's like a Portasio special. And again, you'll notice very little dialogue. You get like one word balloon per panel for a few of these. Except up in the ship where they're having, it's not a fight. It's just a conversation, really. So we can get a little bit more in. Oh, and we're going to get a whole bunch of ads and pinups in the middle. Warblade Ripclaws coming out. Do I have the first issue of that? I think I do now. I'm going to have to take a look around and see if I have that now. We might have to do a video on that. And we're going to get a pinup by Travis Charest. This is of Warblade. Taking it to, I guess these are Black Razor people. Is that meant to be Lynch? Maybe not, no. But this is interesting because this is an older Travis Charest pinup, I'm quite sure. Looks like he got inked by somebody. You know, he's not inking himself. But this looks more like his style from the Wildcats backups with Warblade versus that one Damonite and with Voodoo getting her new costume. It's a good shot. It's a damn good shot. It beats that Spartan pinup he did before where it's like, yep, that's Spartan standing. All right, so now we're back to the action, and we are all out of dialogue. This is just enjoy the chaos. This is a much better kind of chaotic shot with Zealot taking up most of one page, Maul taking up most of the other one, smashing what I assume is Black Razor dudes, although it might be Damonites coming down from the ship. This is where things start to get unclear on what even happened. So somebody shoots one of the Emir's bodyguards, and somebody yells, Ahmed. And then Zealot yells Damonites, although I don't know that she would even know, theoretically, that Damonites have arrived. And then Grifter yells man oh man, which isn't helping anything. But yeah, wild spread. For a big, awesome action shot, it feels like Travis Charest really wants to focus on these spreads now. And then we get a really rare sighting, the vertical double page multi-panel sequence. So Spartan orders Grifter to go and guard the Emir. Great pose. That's kind of a Jim Lee looking pose, actually. And Grifter goes, I'm on it. And I think we're supposed to go, wait a minute, Grifter's the imposter. And, you know, Zealot deflects bullets with her sword, and Marlowe takes shots, but with no dialogue, so it feels kind of pointless, like empty. It doesn't feel like anything is building up. So that's on James Robinson, I think. And back on board the IO ship, they're still getting chased down by the Damonite hunter here, whatever it is. And one of the tech people says they've figured out who the imposter on the ground is, which one of the Wildcats is the Damonite. So they've got to alert the Black Razors about who their target is. The problem is that their communications have been cut off by the attack. So they can't actually strike at this point. So Santini takes it upon himself to airdrop out of the ship and dive in among his crew. And he thinks this is the thing that sets him apart from John Lynch and makes him a better leader. Say, okay, sure. And he's going to give hand signals to the Black Razors team. And these are the kind of hand signals that are kind of ingrained in them over years of training. So that's another thing. Makes him a better leader than John Lynch. It doesn't matter, though, because John Lynch has an eye scar. So that makes him Nick Fury, which makes him better, actually. Sorry, buddy. You're going to have to get your eye taken out. So the hand signal means that he's the runner. So they all have to basically clear a lane for him to get to whatever his objective is. And they all know that instantly, having seen the hand signal. So that's all right. I mean, you know, you can say, did they all notice the hand signal while, like, theoretically Jacob Marlowe was shooting at them or Warblade's hacking them up, that kind of shit? Whatever. It's fine. So he goes running for the imposter. We get lots of quick cuts back to Grifter behind the Emir, the photocopied Emir in every shot. Grifter's only photocopied in a couple of them. And behind Grifter is photocopied Maul. Oh, he's only photocopied in these two. Travis Charest is kind of using whatever he can to quicken the process a little bit, because I'm sure he's spending way too much time on these pages. And then Grifter gets closer to the Emir, and Santini gets ready to take his shot, get the big horizontal panel stretching across both pages. That's pretty fucking great. As Santini draws a bead on what we assume is Grifter, and then we turn the page and find out, no, it's actually Maul. Photocopied Maul behind Grifter. Should have known he was the real thing with all those photocopies. And he finishes his sentence by saying, Grifter, get down. So yeah, the tables have turned now. Nice splash page, by the way. Not the best one in this book, but that's not because it's a bad splash page. It's just because there's a lot of pretty good splash pages in this book. So at the end, Santini and Marlowe kind of hash it out, where Santini shares a little bit of intel about who the impersonator was. This is some Damonite called Mr. White. It was linked to another Damonite called Hightower, which I think was the one in Wildcats trilogy. And now that particular assassin has been eliminated, although you get the feeling there's more assassins out there that the Black Razor team has to focus on. And Emp tries to do a good job, buddy. I owe you one. And he's like, you shut your fucking mouth. because they are not on good terms. He explains to him that, yeah, no, you shot out my knee for no reason after we attacked you for no reason. That's not how this game works, Marlowe. And then we end with Marlowe asking, yo, so where's actual Maul? And Santini goes, fuck you, and leaves. Just flies away on his jetpack. And we get the shot of all the Wildcats looking kind of like, oh, we were going to find out where Maul was. So now I guess we have to focus on looking for Maul. This does feel like the kind of thing that can be used later as like to fill in on an inside cover or something. When you get the credits, you get the shot here of the guys. There's no Maul, but like, you know, do we care if one of them is missing? Probably not. All right, oh, and we get an ad for Shadowhawk Vampirella as drawn by Jim Valentino. He's trying to come up with something that's cool and sexy, I think. Or at least that seems to be the case with how much he's got Vampirella popping out of her swimsuit. But yeah, that's not really working, Jim. Sorry. Anyway. That's it for Wildcats number 16. In terms of the story, it's fine. You know, it has its one objective that it works towards and it accomplishes it. No real twists or turns other than, you know, the fake out of Grifter being the Damon Knight and then, oh, no, it's Maul. Gotcha. And doesn't really set up much of anything other than, I guess we got to search for Maul now. That said, this is still probably one of the best written Wildcats comics to date. There have been some really shitty Wildcats comics. It is weird when you get to the end, though. You get to the fight sequence and they're all just like, punch, man, oh man. But as far as the arc goes, this feels like we're getting somewhere special. This no longer feels like a fill-in guy or like an up-and-comer, you know, like all those up-and-comers that are at Extreme Studios. This feels like a guy who's getting really good really fast. And I'm curious to see what the next couple of issues look like. But for this one anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon. It gives you early access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff to the YouTube videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions, and you can join the Blood Force Discord server. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.